What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Straight from the Dome X's and O's podcast. As always, I'm your host, John. You can find me on Twitter at 7not6. Those are the numbers spelled out all the way. And today we're going to be trying to have a little more fun. We've been a little doom and gloom the last couple episodes, so I wanted to talk about somebody that is a lot of fun to watch right now and is kind of setting the league on fire. So what we were going to be talking about is probably the most exciting quarterback in the league thus far. So through the first quarter of the season, no one has grabbed the league's attention quite like Kansas City's own Patricia H. Mahomes, or Pat Mahomes as the media likes to call him. Thus far, the dude has been like 10,000 volts of pure football excitement wired straight into your brain, and by God, it has been glorious. Now, before we get into the X's and O's in his game, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. This is the number one thing that columnists and broadcasters have been beating into our skulls nonstop ever since he declared for the draft. It's his voice. It's weird, man. It's really, really weird. He somehow sounds like Bert and Ernie carrying on a conversation with each other about football. Watching a post-game interview with him feels like you're seeing video that has the wrong audio attached to it. If his voice is any kind of signal that he hasn't finished puberty yet, then we are all fucked. By God. But seriously though, in all honesty, his arm. Holy shit, his arm. There's a video of him launching a ball 65 yards from his knees. I'm serious, it's on YouTube. Look it up. And when he was asked how far he can throw a football, he claimed he sent one 80 yards in pregame warm-ups at Texas Tech. That is just unreal, man. For perspective, Jamarcus Russell, who was drafted exclusively because he had an absolute cannon for an arm and not a single other redeeming quality, he said that he could throw a ball about 80 yards. Mahomes has that kind of gun along with a set of wheels and a decent football IQ to go with it. So, to put in perspective how impressive he has been this year, let me paint you a little word picture. It's Denver. There's less than 3 minutes left on the clock. Mahomes is down 3. It's 2nd and 30. One more time for dramatic emphasis. It's 2nd and 30. I would look up the conversion percentage for 2nd and 30, but I'm just going to guess it's not very good. 4 plays later, Kareem Hunt's in the end zone. How? Pat Mahomes. That's how. Before converting the 2nd and 30, Mahomes completed a left-handed pass. Yes, a left-handed pass, well evading Denver's pass rush to move the chains and keep the game-clinching drive going. That doesn't feel like a sentence I should ever get to say. I can think of exactly one other time in my entire life where I saw a quarterback switch hands and throw the ball with his non-dominant hand. It took Pat Mahomes exactly 5 games to pull that trick out of his bag. That is just crazy. So, rookies, because with only 5 starts to his name, Mahomes is still a rookie as far as I'm concerned, are not supposed to be this poised. We get plenty of young quote-unquote gunslingers that have all the confidence in the world, but typically you have to live with stupid rookie mistakes that come with learning the limits of what your arm can and cannot do and what it can and cannot get you out of. But Mahomes seems to be the exception to this rule. I'm not sure if he is just mentally head and shoulders above every other young quarterback, or if his arm really just doesn't have a limit. But he's been absolutely untouchable through the first quarter of the season, and he's done it all while sounding like Kermit the Frog. So, through 4 games, he is exactly at 300 passing yards per game, 3.5 touchdowns per game, and is yet to throw a pick. That is unreal. Those are Madden stats. No, those aren't even Madden stats. If you handed me a controller and told me to play 4 games, put up 300 passing yards, at least 3 touchdowns a game, and no interceptions, I don't think I could do that in a video game. His 1,200 passing yards and 14 touchdowns really put him at the top of the way too early MVP discussion. So, for context sake here, let me put in perspective where his numbers rank among the other quarterbacks in the league. So right now, he's 11th in yards per game, but since it's fairly early in the season, he's only 214 yards behind first place Ben Roethlisberger. And honestly, he can make that up in a game and a half if he has a couple just fantastic games. He is first in passing touchdowns. He's second in quarterback rating. That's good. That's really, really good. He and Drew Brees are the only 2 quarterbacks yet to throw an interception, and Mahomes has 6 more touchdowns than Drew Brees. One more time for dramatic emphasis. He has 6 more touchdowns than Drew Brees and hasn't thrown a pick yet. Mahomes is out there playing just like backyard football in the most difficult setting imaginable. Playing quarterback in the NFL is already the hardest job in sports because so many parts of your success are dependent on what other people are doing. Prime example of this is Kansas City's defense. To put it mildly, they are not great. They don't stop the run very well, or the pass, or really anything. And since as a unit they allow so many points, it changes the way that Kansas City has to call their offense. Instead of being able to hold a lead and ride last year's rushing champ, they're forced to pass the ball 35 times a game. And having to pass the ball that often, it makes you a one-dimensional offense and it leaves your quarterback exposed. Defenses are able to drop more players into coverage, they're able to keep their better pass rushers on the field without fear of the run, and they can just pin their ears back and go try to make the quarterback's kidneys bleed. Now, ordinarily, especially with young quarterbacks, this magnifies a quarterback's shortcomings and greatly increases their mistakes. But it hasn't yet for Mahomes. Time and time again, he's been able to go out there and find a hole in the coverage or just brutally punch a hole in the coverage with this howitzer of an arm. So, the only real question I've got about Mahomes is, can he keep it up? Because he's playing just a crazy style of football, and I don't know how long he can do it. So, for me, one of the most important for me, if not the most important thing in evaluating a quarterback is sustainability. Individual performances are great, but give me long-term production over individual statistical marvels. Being level-headed long-term and not just having mercurial outbursts is not a good thing, or at least that's what my therapist tells me. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he lit up the league for the first few defenses that he saw, but no one believed that he would keep it up because, well, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick, man, and the things he was doing, they just weren't replicable, and he's shown us over and over again that he can't keep up that level of play. But with Pat Mahomes, man, it's tricky. Some of the success that he has comes from attempting throws that would make offensive coordinators just absolutely cringe, like, oh my god, why did you throw that ball? But he completes the passes because he has just flat out amazing arm talent. So the question is, like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around, does it make a sound? If you make an ill-advised throw but you complete it, is it still an ill-advised throw? And that's where it gets really hard to project. Having the pure throwing talent that he does means that he plays under a completely different set of rules, not entirely dissimilar to Aaron Rodgers. Now, I am in no way saying that Mahomes is even in the same zip code or state or stratosphere as Aaron Rodgers. You cannot make that kind of judgment off of 5 starts. However, they do have some similarities. Throws that are bad throws for any other quarterback in the league are not bad throws for them, very simply because they complete them. This does raise the question of, will this lead to overconfidence in his arm and that'll eventually lead to turnovers? But I personally don't think so, because he makes enough good decisions on the field that I believe he will have more success than failure when it comes to making off-script plays. So, Mahomes is a rare talent, and in a limited sample size, he's shown traits of some of the greats in the game and a physical skill set that means that he plays by just a completely set of rules that apply only to him. So, really, the only thing that we have to wait and see is, can he keep this thing up? And honestly, I don't know, but I am absolutely excited as hell to keep watching and find out if he can do it. So that is all I've got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this episode a little more and it wasn't me just complaining about bad coaching and yelling that people need to run the ball. So, as always, I'm your host. You can find me on Twitter at 7not6. Those are the numbers spelled out all the way if you have any comments, questions, concerns, requests, anything like that. And with all that being said, everybody be safe, everybody be cool, and I will see you next time.